Hello and welcome to this week's episode. I am here with a dear friend, colleague, and peer, Miss Aura E. Martinez. So excited to have you here today. And Aura is a self-discovery and empowerment coach that helps women get total clarity on their purpose so they can wake up to daily fulfillment and certainty. She is the creator of the Aura Blueprint and founder of Live to the Max, Viva al Maximo. She is also the author of the book, Creating a Lifetime of Wellness, Start Having the Life You Deserve. I am so excited to have you here. It's a pleasure and honor, and we just have so much fun together either way. And
oh gosh, I am so excited to be here, so thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I always love to have my guests speak into their journey of what got them to where they are today and why they do what they do. And so I'd love to hear from you outside of the lovely bio that we just had to share. Like how you got to what you're doing now and what really lights you up about the work that you do.
Yes. So I actually started out as a wellness and life coach, helping people get out of the sugar roller coaster they will find themselves in. And what I noticed about the people that would come to me and even my own weight loss journey was that the people that came to me, most of them, they did not need a meal plan. They did not need to be told, eat this, eat that, do this exercise. There was actually something deeper going on. And that's when I realized that if only we were to get to the core of who we really are, like really, really go deep, we would literally simultaneously change several areas of ourselves in our lives. Because what they didn't realize was that they were having a relationship with food and their body, but the common denominator was them. And sometimes we fail to realize how we are the common denominator in everything in our life. So whenever we see that our life isn't going the way we want it to go, the answer is to go within. And so that's what led me to being a self-discovery and empowerment coach.
Ooh, I love that so much. We have a similar background. I also started in nutrition coaching and really for the discovery piece around the emotional eating and spiritual connection that when people are overeating or emotionally eating for coping, whether it's to deal with pain or grief, or it's the only thing they can control in their life, or the only way that they can truly connect and find that sense of happiness or nourishment. And we met when I was starting as a nutrition coach. So I love that we have that in common. And as you started on that journey, that self-discovery, that like, what is actually going on here, and getting into the emotions and the spiritual connection and all of those deeper things. And so with that, in the self-discovery process, for women who are maybe new to self-discovery and or further along in their self-discovery practice and discovery unfolding of their journey, what are some of the things that you've found to be helpful for you along that process? Because I know for me, when I finally realized that it was an ongoing thing versus like, oh, I'm just going to wake up and have it all figured out someday. That was actually kind of a painful experience for me, because I thought that like, oh, I'm going to heal this thing and then never have to deal with it again. Or it's just never going to show up in my life again and on to the next problem kind of a thing. But that actually, for me, wasn't the nature. It was more of a cyclical layer piece of that. So my long question is, whether someone's new to self-discovery or along their path, what are the things that you have found to be the most impactful or insightful?
In terms of starting in the journey, and even when you're further along in the journey, always leaning into curiosity. Why curiosity? Because that actually is the start of a transformation. And not only that, it makes any healing, I'm not going to say easy, but easier. Because when you have so much to heal, it can be painful at times, right? But if we approach everything with the spirit of curiosity, which if you think about it, that is our nature. As kids, we're curious. And we need to go back to our nature of being curious, because what it does is anything that may seem painful because you're looking at it from a lens of curiosity, it doesn't hurt as much in the sense that you're like, why is this happening to me? Not happening to me. Let me correct this. Why is this happening for me? Right? What is this trying to teach me? So in that process of curiosity, you start to grow, right? Another thing that I found very helpful too is to embrace the triggers. Now, I'm the first one. Oh my God, girl, I am the first one to say that is not always fun. It is not always fun. And I don't think we're taught to embrace our triggers. If anything, we're taught to get away from it, right? This bothers me. No, 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 no. But the thing is, when we don't embrace the triggers, we miss out on valuable information about ourselves, about parts of us that may be out of our awareness that we need to start paying attention to, something that the universe is calling us to heal. Do you see how curiosity is also intertwined in all that? Because when you start embracing the triggers, you learn and grow. And when you embrace it from a place of, let me be curious about this, oh my God, you literally become unstoppable when that is your frame of mind. Unstoppable in the sense that you don't let the things that may seem to bother you or hurt you. Now I believe that nothing is meant to hurt us. It's meant to grow us.
Oh, yeah, that's powerful. And depending where you're at in your journey, that'll either be like relief or like it'll feel like a little jab
Yeah.
around that. I've been in both places before. And I love what you said in the healing process of this, where healing really is self-discovery and vice versa in that. And naturally in our nervous system, in our emotional system, in our bodies, we as humans want to avoid pain, right? Our body is chemically set up where if we taste bitter foods to warn us that it's poisonous and going to feel bad in our body or kill us. So that goes on all levels of our body, whether it's behavioral, mental, emotional. We want to avoid pain. It is a natural aspect of life. And something that I teach with the women that I work with is learning how to hold both pain and pleasure so that you can be almost like the observer. You're still experiencing the things, but you understand how to move with and hold those things. And in the work that you do with people too around this healing and understanding how, really the mindset around it too, of like, how is this working for me? How is this moving me closer into my truth, into what I actually value, the types of relationships I actually want to however that shows up. How, in your own experience and with the clients that you work with, in this self-discovery, in this healing process, how does that ultimately shift people into their power?
The more you're able, and the more the clients are able to see themselves and their life clearly, the more they can make decisions that comes from their true essence, which is their soul. I'm going to explain. So in the process that I take my clients in, and that I've even taken myself in, it's about removing those layers. Because when we're living from any kind of layer, what do I mean with layer? That can be a conditioning, that can be a story, that can be a limiting belief, that can be a societal belief, family dynamic that we carry, anything that we carry. Those things determine the decisions that we make. Those things determine how we think. Those things determine even who we are. And when those things are not really who you really are, that's when you experience misalignment. So you could desire all you want. You could be doing even all the quote unquote things that you're supposed to do to have that which you say, quote unquote, that you want. But unless you do that inner work of peeling back those layers and really making sure that whatever decision, whatever it is that you do is really coming from you, not from any layer. You cannot get to a place of true power. Your power is in your alignment with you. When you're having an alignment with your story, with your conditioning, there's absolutely no way that you can even manifest, live, experience true fulfillment, which your power isn't all of that. And so, what I've noticed in people that once they do that work and once they peel off, there's a sense of relief. There's a sense of, oh my God, this is who I really am. It's like I knew this is who I really am, but I didn't think so because of XYZ. Well, because they were seeing themselves through the lens of all that they were carrying.
Oof, that's so spot on. And it reminds me of one of my mentors, Dr. D. Martini. He talks about asking yourself better questions. So in our human conditioning, in societal, religious, family, familial conditioning, we learn how to ask sometimes kind of crappy questions, especially if you are not surrounded with people that are committed to personal development or self-growth and those things. So a lot of people will find themselves naturally asking, like, what if this goes wrong? What if, and you're like almost predicting and planning for the worst. That can be helpful in seeing all situations so you're prepared in case those things happen. But there's also this element of being able to be like, what if I succeed? Like, what if this goes the way I want? And seeing some of the stuff too that comes up for you around like, oh my God, what if it does happen? And those things come in. And I really, really love what you said about this piece of unlearning all of those things so that you can get to who you really are. And most people are so used to people pleasing, doing the right thing so other people view them as a good person. The list goes on for that, the social conditioning around that. But when people peel back those layers, as you were saying, and get to who they really are and what they really value and what they really want, a lot of the time it's less things
Yes.
around, whether it's material, money, like business, whatever. And it's way more about the feeling of, I'm proud of myself. I love myself. I wake up happy. That freedom, that joy, those feeling states, and kind of coming circling back with that, the nutrition piece of this, of like, what are the reasons that you're actually going for these things and what's at the core. But you speaking into this piece of helping people discover who they really are underneath the social conditioning, the societal conditioning, modern day life, all of these things is so powerful. And that is truly where the healing work that you're doing with people is happening. And when you've done this for yourself and other people, what have been some of the biggest things that they've discovered or you've discovered, or how their life changes once they like really truly align with who they are, who they really are?
One of the biggest ones have been that they didn't realize the degree that those layers were playing a role in their life. One of the things that we sometimes think when we're not awakened to who we really are, right? We think we're in charge. We think we're the ones in the driver's seat. Oh, yeah, no, it's so and so. It's because of so and so that I don't have this. It's because this is the reason why. And it could be anything. It could be anything. If it's relationship, oh, because men are all idiots. I'm just, whatever. If it's business, oh, because I need to learn more marketing things. That's the reason why I don't. And it isn't until really those layers are peeled that people are like, oh my God, it was my fear that was in the driver's seat. It was this belief about myself that was in the driver's seat. And that's why I kept thinking it's XYZ. Oh my gosh, I'm the one choosing these kind of men because. And so one of the hardest things to accept, and I even say it for me as well, is how much of a role our layers play, aka us, because we're the ones, right, that are creating this, but we're asleep at that moment, right? Because I'm pretty sure that when we are awake, like fully awake, we wouldn't make those decisions. This is why we need to really be making that constant decision to always wanting to be awakened, right? Always wanting to be awakened. Again, leaning into that curiosity, why this keeps happening, or why this keeps occurring, or why I keep making these choices. Because that why, that curiosity is going to lead you to really discovering, okay, what is going on. And another thing too, I must say, as you discover the role that you play, because I've noticed this too in my clients, and I was guilty of this too. We tend to be so hard on ourselves when we realize how much we've messed up. You can't do that. You make things worse. So it's so important to have compassion, because the reality is we didn't know better at that time.
That's so, so important. Probably one of the most important pieces is that compassion piece. That goes for ourselves, for our caretakers, even. That was a big one for me in my process, was letting go of the blame, because they didn't know better at the time. They were doing, and it's not to release any responsibility from anyone, but it also, for me, understanding from that lens where, like, maybe something I did or someone else did wasn't okay at the time, or it caused pain in myself or others. But I was, you know what you know at the time. And then when you know better, you do better. And I think that phrase gives you a lot of permission to have compassion. Your experiences, your education are vastly different from every other person you come into contact with. So outside of us trying to over apologize or over explain or any of those things, that compassion piece allows you to really be at peace with yourself, with what's happened in your life. And that alone is so healing, I think, and empowering. That was my experience with compassion too, was really honoring, like, oh, that part of me just really had no idea, or she was like numbing out because that was like how she coped, and that was how she survived, and that was how she made it to who she is today. And instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, it's like, oh, she gets to come too, because she is what got me to where I am today. And I really love that you spoke to that specifically. And wow, I have so many questions. I'm like, I just have so many questions for you.
Though I love what you said, though. You were like, this person, this part of me gets to come with me, because that is so key. As we're peeling those layers, yes, there are parts of us that we need to let die, so to speak, right? Because the reality is it may not serve us for the direction that we're going. But what allows us to feel whole, because we are whole, but what allows us to feel whole is when we can truly understand that every part of us is not there necessarily to hurt us. It was developed at some point because something in our life triggered that part of us to be developed for survival, right? Because we were designed to survive, you know. I think we're meant to thrive. This is why I say survive. But but when we can bring all parts of us in our journey, we start feeling the wholeness of who we are. And in that wholeness, we start feeling healed. In that wholeness, we start reclaiming more of our power, right? Because think about it, when you accept all parts of you and you're no longer ashamed of any part of you, you know the power that there is in that? That's when you become you unapologetically. This is when you're like, oh, screw it. This person doesn't like me. Well, screw you. This is who I am, right? That's powerful. It's so, so powerful. And it gets you closer and closer to the life that you want, to the people that are meant to be in your life, to the people that will serve you and actually help you grow. So when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I just need to add, because that was so, so good, because that's key.
Yeah, 1,000%. And we talk about a lot of similar things, which is so, it's fun to like bounce off of each other in that way. And I love what you said around, obviously it's like that integration of learning the coping mechanisms that helped us survive, quote unquote, and letting those pieces heal. Like whether it's called die off or heal in or whatever. But I love this piece around releasing shame. That's something that I've definitely worked with a lot in my own healing journey and a lot with the women I work with. And I find it interesting, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, where this shows up a hell of a lot more for women than it ever will and ever has for men. Men do not worry cognitively. I'm not going to speak for all men, but the majority of men, especially in leadership positions, do not usually worry a lot, overthinking of, is what I'm going to say going to hurt this person? Like, there's not so much of that filter, so to speak. And as women learn to release their shame and unapologetically really step into who they are, what have you noticed, or what are some of the things that you have found help women really get over this? How do I want to ask this? Okay, so there's this element that women are so worried about being out of integrity with what they want to say, their business, who they are, all of those things, where men don't really, they just do. Like, they go, they're like, this is who I am. And I know this is a conditioning thing. I know that about women and men, where men are taught that, like, it's okay for them to speak up. It's okay for them to speak first. It's okay for them to even fake it till they make it, in a lot of senses, where they're like saying and doing, but not necessarily embodying the thing. Whereas women, who are usually so in integrity, even if it's like the fear part of themselves running it, they're like in integrity with that. We're like, this is real for me, and this is what's true for me. Where these shame factors, these conditioning factors, specifically to women, I call it the witch wound, where we were burned at the stake, literally, for being healers, for being educated, for speaking up, for standing our ground, for the list goes on of reasons. And I'm curious, I guess my question around this is, in yourself or your clients, what have you found in healing that relationship to your voice and your truth, when you can step into being that unapologetic? How to help women let go of this piece of thinking that they're like an ego addict or narcissist or aggressive, or that, like, too much, because it's so unfamiliar and uncomfortable when you've never really stood in that.
That's a beautiful question. And by the way, I've never heard of witch wound, which is so true.
Yeah.
So true. Okay, so
Yeah.
one thing, I would have to say that it's so important for each and every one of us to know what is the intention behind what we're going to say, what we're going to do, and who we're being at that time. And the reason why that's very important is because when you know that the intention is good, and you're connected, so in alignment with that intention, once you're that grounded and you see yourself with so much clarity and you see the outside world with so much clarity, you literally won't give two rats ass what anybody else has to say. If there's one thing that I've realized, and this is why people are feeling me very differently, and I've had people telling me, oh my God, you're just so different. You're like coming out of your shell. Da, da, da. This is who I am. This is who I've always been. But I've had to do a lot of healing to get there. And so when you know that your intentions are pure, how someone else takes it, it's none of your business. Like, when you can remember that, it's none of your business. Stay grounded in your intentions behind anything that you're doing, anything that you're saying, and who you're being. And to me, anybody that thinks that it's too much, that it's too this, that it's too that, that just means they're not in alignment with you. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. I know
Yeah.
I sound like I just don't give two rat's ass. I don't personally.
I love it.
But the reason why I don't is because this takes me to my second point. It's so important for us to remember, at the end of the day, I go to sleep by myself. Even if I had a boyfriend, I sleep to myself. I wake up to myself. The person that I want to be in peace at the end of the day is with myself. When we're trying to be in peace with everybody at the expense of our own peace, now that's living out of integrity. The person that you want to always live in integrity with is with yourself. Because it's when you live in integrity with yourself, again, you get back your power. There is no power in being at peace with everybody, but you're not at peace with yourself. It's when you're in integrity. Integrity is wholeness. If you look at the definition of integrity, I'm even so curious to look it up, but it has something to do with being integral, being whole. This is why it's so important that we go back to that intention that we have. And as long as you know that your intentions are pure, other people that do belong in your life, other people who are served, what I'm about to say, this just came to me. This world is served greatly by you being who you really are, by you being in integrity with who you really are. The reason for that is because you never know whose life you shape for the better because you're being who you really are. You never know the greatness that awaits for you because you're being who you really are. You never know what riches comes ahead of you because you're being who you really are. And that's why I don't give two rats ass what anybody else thinks about who I am being and how I am today. As long as who I am, and this applies to everyone watching, as long as you are who you really are and your intentions are pure and you're in integrity and in peace with who you really are, that's what really matters at the end of the day. Now, if who you're really being is, oh, then F you and forget you and I'm going to be mad at you. And no, that's not really who you really are, because who you really are is love. Now, when we find ourselves in a place where we're feeling all, that's something to be explored, right? Because all parts of us are meant to be explored. But the whole point is you're meant to always come from a place of love and come from pure intentions. I hope I made that very, very clear.
Oh, it was beautiful. I was just like, yes, I was like wafting it in when you're speaking. I feel like you took me to church. That was really beautiful how you articulated all of that. And I love really everything you said, but specifically this piece too around when, obviously, when you come from love and you're coming from that intention and you stop trying to please everyone. That has been a journey for me over the last couple of years of going online, especially with all the cancel culture and all the wokeness around like what's politically and racially correct. And all of these things are very charged topics. They're very important topics too. And something that I found in myself in really a healing journey I went on specifically like 2 years ago with this was where I was censoring and editing and filtering my own words and self to try and not hurt anyone, potentially anyone, with what I was saying. And having the best of intentions, I'm still going to have an impact with my words, with my actions, and how that impacts other people is from their own understandings, their own experiences, their own perceptions of what I'm even saying, right? We could all look at an art piece on the wall and all have completely different experiences of that art piece. Same thing with reading the Bible. Like every single person has a different interpretation, meaning, understanding of those things. And I think it's so important for women specifically to understand that even with the best of intentions, the impact that you have on others is, like you said, their own experience, their own journey. And again, it comes back to this, when I know better, I do better. And it's really sitting with your values, what your truths are, and as they are in relationship with others so that you can be a kind human, right? So you're like being aware of the impact and the intentions and how you're showing up in the world, but not living in a way where everything you do or say is depicted on, well, what is this person going to think? Or can I say that? Or whatever, where it's like, no, this is my truth. And if you're not willing to meet me and have a conversation around it, if you disagree or whatever, then you can be like, okay, if I'm not for you, then like keep scrolling or whatever. But it really does bring you back. And I had such a huge experience with this over the last couple of years, because I had people literally attacking my business, me online. And I'm not going to say it didn't hurt and it wasn't humiliating or like shocking to my nervous system, because I'm human and I know that I'm not perfect. And I know that I'm totally open to growth and learning and different things. But there is this element of that could have completely shut me down. And I think it shuts a lot of women down from being seen, from being heard, from stepping up into what is actually possible for them. And in this conversation, I want it to be a reminder for women, like you were saying, when you step into that fuller version of yourself and you stop trying to please everyone and you're true in your core of your intentions and your truth, you do better when you know better. It shows other women what's possible. And that's been a biggest takeaway for me, has been all of the women who saw this. I can't even go back into the story of what happened with this woman, because it was really just out there. And it was more like her mental health issues and like her just kind of being an asshole online. And the people that reached out to me, even from her community, that were like, I'm so sorry. And then years after being like, I'm so proud of you to keep going, because my worst fear is being attacked online. And like how you move through that showed me that, that I can like, that I won't die and that I can survive that kind of a thing. And really truly speaking into the work that you do with women also around helping them build that sense of self, that sense of self-trust and that confidence that it takes in order to show up as the real version of you, because it's scary and people aren't going to like it and you're not going to fit in everywhere. And that's such a different feeling of being okay and comfortable with that, rather than trying to fit into all the boxes that other people are trying to put you in order to fit into what they think is fun or normal or nice or whatever. And it's so important for anyone watching this, for the work that you do around really helping guide women back into that place where it's like, no, this is who the fuck I am. And I get to have what I want. And it's not because I'm crawling over people to get there. I'm not putting other people down to get there. It's because I'm coming from love and I'm coming from this place that I want to be a good human and I want to do good in the world and I want to show people what is possible. And so I know there's a little bit of a tangent, but this work is so important for women to really feel and get and connect with, like really connecting up into around what's possible for them. You know, women weren't even allowed to have their own bank accounts without a male signature until 1974. And like our financial power, our sexual power, our being able to speak our truth and not get burned literally alive for it as a witch wound, so to speak. So we are all, as women, the more of us that are awake to this, the more of us that are healing through this, is we are opening doors and opening up paths for the women that come after us. And the more that we get to really own our voice, our power, our finances, the more influence and the more power we have to actually change the things in the world. Because right now, if it's just the men, like we've seen where that's gone. So anyway, I would love to hear any and all thoughts of like the little rant that I just went on.
I loved it. And you know what? I have to say this. It's beautiful not to fit in everywhere. Oh my God, it's beautiful not to fit in. I don't need to fit in everywhere. Trust me, I don't. Oh my God. If we think about it, I know, right? The things that I say, people are like, really, is this you? Yeah, this has always been me. It's just that I was not healed, but whatever. Think about this, a palm tree. Palm trees do not grow in New York, in Vermont, in Maine. Does that make the palm tree a bad tree or a wrong tree? No, they're just meant to thrive in certain climates, in the tropical, in the heat. That's where they thrive. And when we can remember that, we don't have to feel this need that I need to fit in with this group. And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with the group or something wrong with me. We're just not a match. So I think it's a great thing that we don't all like fit. At least I don't need to fit in. Girl, I am so glad I did my work. I'm telling you, that is the key to getting to a point of not giving a damn. And by you getting to that point, by default, you're releasing shame. And by default, you are claiming your power. And by default, what's the other thing? You reclaim your power and you start healing. Okay, I almost forgot that my train of thought, but I got there. I got there. But that's the key. And the path to that, all of it is self-discovery. All of it is. All of it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to hear your thoughts on, and if you experience this or you see this in some of the women that you work with. I'm a recovering cool girl. And that's the, like, I just think back to the younger version of me where like, oh, no worries. I still say that because I actually mean it when I talk to people. I'm like, yeah, no worries, whatever. But like, I would be like that about like everything in my life because I just didn't know or think at the time that people wanted to hear my voice or my opinion, or that me asking for what I actually wanted or needed would be met or received. So I just was like, no, it's fine. Like, I'll just go without it. Or trying to be the girl that was like low maintenance on dates and like vacations or in dating because I'm like, oh, I'm like so good or so cool with myself that like I don't have to be bitchy or naggy or ask for what I actually want. So everything was just like, okay, like fine, even though it was like complete me not even showing up in the relationship and then wondering why I like never had healthy relationships in that sense where it's like, yeah, because you're not even showing up. You're like acting like the cool girl or like whatever. And this is a piece of that people pleasing or that trying to fit in everywhere. And so I'm curious if you've experienced those kinds of things or seen that in your clients, how you work with them through that of being like, no, you get like, basically my take is most people are not shown what healthy relationships actually look like. So they don't have a blueprint for that. They don't actually know like, oh no, like it's actually okay for me to ask for this, whether it's in a job, whether it's for more money, whether it's in a love relationship, whether it's with sex, whatever. We haven't really been taught these healthy like standards for ourselves in how we ask for things and how we show up for things. And yeah, I'm just curious if you've experienced any of these or with your clients around helping them stand like, no, you get to ask for this. And I find in my practice that people are like, I didn't even know I could do that. Like, I didn't even know I could ask for that. And I've totally experienced that in my process where I'm like, oh my God, I really didn't even know that that's what I could have in this, whether it's with relationships or money or whatever. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes. So one thing I want to say is that the relationships that we have with other people is always a reflection of the relationship that we have with ourselves. I mean, and that was a hard one for me to swallow. One thing that I've seen in clients and also in myself is the inability to see the fullness of who we are. Because somehow, I don't know if it's because we have been taught or we learned that we can be this, but not this. Or when we're in a certain environment, we try to be like a chameleon. And so we become this, that we lose touch of this other part of us. So, at least for me, in my personal journey, I before didn't see the fullness of who I am. And because I didn't see the fullness of who I am, I couldn't see the beauty of who I am. So, what I would do is, there were certain crowds or certain environments that deep down I knew I belonged, but I lived from a layer and thought, oh my God, that's too much for me. Probably that's not for me. And so I would belittle myself. And this is why doing that work is so important, because we really can miss out. Remember what I said earlier, you miss out on the riches. Like you really miss out on the riches, the richness of certain relationships that are meant to be in your life, because here you are, you're not claiming your power, right? You're here looking at whatever layer it is that you're looking at, but you're not seeing the real you. Girl, let me just share this. It's going to seem like I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm not. Everyone, please follow me. This is so important. So I did not think this was going to be the year that I was going to do a TED Talk. And when I got the news, I was like, am I really doing this? I know you're like celebrating with me.
I'm so excited for you. I like just completely forgot about that and like in the midst of all of this, but can we take a minute to like slow clap for Ara getting to do her first TEDx? It's so exciting. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. There's a reason why I mentioned this. So 9 years ago, I saw well, this is going to sound crazy, but it's not crazy. I always knew that this version of me is really who I am. But there was a big part of me that doubted it. Layers, layers. This is why it's so important to do the work, right? And so I remember 9 years ago, I wanted to do this TED Talk. 9 years is a long time. Like I realized it doesn't have to take that long, but it takes whatever it takes because you got to start the work, right? And I did not really necessarily, like I kind of started it, but did whatever. Anyways, because I decided to lean into my curiosity and keep on going and keep on going no matter what and keep on going. But I was like, but really, is this meant for me? Because I keep visualizing that, but it's not coming true, like it's not happening. The moment I was able to see the fullness of who I am, it ain't happening. That's a lie. This is this way. This is a lie. For whoever that's wondering, okay, what the heck does this have to do with me healing? For anybody watching, right? You're going to see where I'm going with this. When you're able to separate yourself from what is, because this isn't happening, because this isn't this, and you see your truth, who you really are, that vision that came to you, this is who I'm meant to be, this, and you're relentless in that. See, that's going to lead you to your healing. Because if someone would have told me, first of all, that it would have taken 9 years, I mean, time passes by regardless. So better to go forward, even if you're not seeing things moving, but they are, right? But if someone would have told me that there was healing involved, I probably would have been like, oh, forget this TEDx talk, right? I need to heal first. What the heck? So I say that because when we notice that there's such a big space between the very things that we want, I am pretty sure, I can guarantee you there's healing there to be involved. So when you embark in this journey of healing and reclaiming your power, that vision that you start having, those desires, you start getting closer and closer and closer to that. Because what it does is, as you're peeling layer after layer, you're able to see yourself and your life so clearly. No longer is the outer world going to trip you up, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And I love, there's this piece that the healing factor, but this conviction of keeping the vision even when it hasn't arrived yet, and pulling back the layers around what's in between, like what is the resistance, what are the blocks, what are the healing that needs to happen in order for me to allow in, whether it's the TEDx talk or the relationship or more money or whatever the thing is. I think you articulated that so beautifully around, you're like, yeah, it took 9 years, but 9 years ago, you wouldn't have been in the same headspace, the same heart space, and maybe wouldn't have delivered the message, the meaning, the thing in the same way that you can now. And so there is this element, I know, I don't know if anyone's necessarily a fan of Joel Osteen or not, but I think he's a preacher and like very well-known, wealthy preacher from Texas, and people either like love or hate everything that's him. He's a great example of the things that we're talking about right now. But he talks about being in the waiting room. And this is one of my favorite, you can go on YouTube and type in Joel Osteen's waiting room. But it's this, when he was basically being prepared to be the preacher that he is now, because his father was a preacher before him, and he thought he was ready and, was like not understanding why it wasn't happening yet and all of these things. And he talks about sometimes, whether you use creator, God, source, universe, higher intelligence, whatever, puts you in like this incubator, because it's like when you're carving a stone sculpture, it's like it is curating you to be prepared for the moment, for the opportunity, for that lucky situation. And if you can stay with the belief, the conviction, the knowing, the vision that your desire, whether it's a relationship, the business, the whatever that you're wanting, and stick with it, and not necessarily be so attached to when, like it needs to be this year or whatever. That's where the magic happens. And I think that's also where people can be more compassionate with their day-to-day life around, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it is happening and it will happen. And there's so much depth and wisdom and realness that occurs when people are in that curation place. Whereas I know for things that I've wanted to do, if they would have happened when I wanted them, I would have been so immature and so like not as impactful as I could be as I am now. So I think there's so much wisdom that can happen in that incubation stage or that waiting room stage, to like what you were speaking, like, oh, I had things to heal. And at the time, like before, you never would have gone on the healing journey that you would have if you would have gotten the TEDx 9 years ago. So it just goes in to speak to that.
Give it to me. Just give it to me. And it's like, no. Because, one thing that I learned in it was in high school, because I was part of a program called Outward Bound, which you go every month outdoors and explore whatever. It's not the getting there, it's the getting there. And I didn't get it at first, but if you think about it, it's not the getting there to the destination. The real secret is the getting there. And it's the in-between. And I can assure you that in the in-between, there's no getting there without healing. There's no getting there without you being in the process of reclaiming your power. And for you to get there, you need to embark in that journey of self-discovery. I mean, it doesn't even matter what area of your life you're trying to transform. It all requires self-discovery. That's where your empowerment comes from.
Absolutely. And with that being said, where can people find you? What do you have going on right now that people can be a part of? Let us know how they can get in on that self-discovery and healing and really stepping into their power.
Yes. Well, I offer a free course. It's called The Path to Your Nirvana, or Nirvana. Oh my God, I speak different languages, so my accent.
I love it.
Yes. And I can send you the link for anybody that's interested in signing up for that free course. They can find me on Facebook, Aura E. Martinez Coach. On Instagram, Aura Elena Martinez. On Twitter, Aura E. Martinez. On TikTok, it's also Aura E. Martinez. And online, www.auraemartinez.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was such a beautiful and empowering conversation, and I appreciate having you on today.
Well, thank you for having me here. Love this conversation. Loved it.